Yo, 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 it's your boy. No, wait, that's not what this is. This is episode 5 of the Global Exclusive Podcast. I'm your Hazard, and I'm joined by Bharos,
I think Madam Edel is made of paper.
Cotton Sea,
Who is trying very hard not to pull for Madam Edel. No thank you, Hazard.
and Dreamblitz.
The official most casual member of the Wiki Ratings team.
Muspel and Shadow Walker aren't here this week, and that's because they're on strike. They were talking something about working conditions, not getting paid, not having their voices heard. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention, but yeah, so they're not going to be here this week, and we're going to get right into some fun stuff for you.
And I gear all my units for E-peen because my real life peen is tiny.
Yeah, please edit this out.
So you didn't have to meet Muspel behind a 7-Eleven.
Let's not talk about Tifa naked too much.
So the big topic this week is the banner of Madam Edel. This has been a source of quite a bit of controversy for some reason on the Reddit, and it has to do with her damage potential and also some of her gearing restrictions. So what have you guys been seeing on the Reddit for this?
Yeah, there's literally been a ton of arguments for both camps. It's either, oh my god, it takes 20 turns for her to ramp up, versus the people saying, doesn't matter, she still does top tier damage in the first 5 turns, etc. The community is very split on Adele, and I don't know why.
Ironically, both camps are referring to the same shit in their arguments.
Yeah, that's but it's really weird, right?
I thought Dream actually kind of hit it on the head last week. So if you could, Dream, do you explain a little bit about why there's this controversy?
Yeah.
You had a really good explanation.
I think the way it is her damage output isn't directly comparable to most other damage dealers that have quite a uniform output, because she's simultaneously she does a ton of damage on if you spend ages in the fight and ramp up because of how her cooldowns work, but if you want to clear the fight quickly, then in shorter turn counts others will do better than her. But then there's the side of her finisher move, which can be support chains for big damage early on, and there's other minor things like the fact she has barely any spirit naturally, so that can eat into her gearing on calculations compared to other damage dealers that are naturally very bulky. So yeah, I think she can be both incredibly strong and underwhelming depending on how she's used, how she's compared, and what the fight is. But overall, I think she's still a good unit.
I was just going to say the reason I was interested in her in the first place is because of how cool her sprite is and how cool her character is. It's such a unique and well done design by Gumi. I think the way that her story and her story event this weekend was really cool.
Yes,
as well.
I actually enjoyed it. The first time in a long while I've actually enjoyed a story event. Wow.
I haven't done it yet, so no spoilers. I've still been finishing off the Mog King.
Okay, so Adele dies in the story event.
Yes, that definitely happens, and the one we see in the main story is actually a clone.
Wait, she's in the main story? Because I just skipped the main story.
Spoiler, Madam Edel is just another version of Rain.
Oh shit. You're actually absolutely right. Actually, I can see it.
I just really like her design. If you guys saw there was a fan art, or I don't know if it's official fan art, but I saw it.
It's an official art, I think.
And it's on the banner. If you guys go and look at
the banner. It looks amazing. Although I have a complaint about that, because she looks much I like the way she looks as in the sprite. She looks older in the sprite than she does on the banner picture. Banner picture, she looks like she's 15, and that bothers me because I really like the way.
Does she?
I mean, she's I think
Does she
so.
though?
No, I kind of get what you're saying. She's got the ageless face because she's half dark elf, so she's kind of got those ageless features.
Spoilers.
I mean, it's literally in her kit.
It was already known by the previous mana stuff as well, so it's been out for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe we should explain a little bit about why Madam Edel has this controversy over her damage. It's one of those things where she's got 4 cooldowns. One opens up on turn 3, one opens up on turn 6, another on turn 9, another on turn 12, and all 4 of these ramp up her modifiers permanently to a bunch of her damage potential. So, but after turn 12, she's putting out some insane damage. But as Dream was saying, in the beginning, she's doing good damage, but it's not like meta damage dealing.
Unimpressive.
Yeah. I think that like first 5 or 6 turns, I saw someone doing this calculation in the Wiki Ratings channel. Like AK Rain beats her by either 50% or 100%. I don't remember. Like he either does twice her damage or 50% more. But so, I mean, obviously, like you don't want to bring her for early fights if you're chaining with her. But then again, if you really can do the Sid treatment for her, like you can bring the LB fill, you can bring the imperils and imbues, she can actually spam her finisher move and reach insane numbers early as well.
Yeah, she's one of those units where she's not a plug and play unit. You know, like the double monk unit we just had, AK Ran, are more plug and play. You put them in, you do a lot of damage earlier. Carton is another good example.
Yeah, absolutely. Like easy to gear. Easy to gear, easy to use. So your favorite units, right, Hazard?
Well, I mean, it's just a playstyle that some people really like. They like to just have that brain dead rotation or early damage. And I get it. Like we'll talk about Tifa later, but I love Tifa's rotation for that simplicity. But Edel is one where if you give her a little TLC in the way that you gear her and the way that you do a team comp, you can really have her shine. But she's not a unit you can just throw some gear on and have her really outperform any of the current damage dealers.
Yeah. But I can share a little story about this that I just agonized about for 30 minutes in the Wiki Ratings channel. So I just scored my Esther STMR, my first Esther STMR. So it has Stone Killer. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to redo some of my Demon Wall runs to see how much I can lower the turn count. And I thought I would try to do an Edel run with only finisher move. So trying to actually get her to finish every turn. And I go in to the fight, and first turn, like I start up as any other turn, and then Edel takes 19,000 damage to the face from the Earth AoE. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? All of my other units that went into here like took 3k. And we're discussing this in the Wiki Ratings channel, people are trying to help me. And then I look at my Edel and I'm like, she has 260 spirit. Well, shit. And that was quite disappointing.
I guess I agree with Bharos. That is one of the challenges in gearing Edel. She has horrible EHP passives naturally, so when you do want to do trials, you actually have to make an effort to increase her defense, her spirit, her HP, which also makes it hard to grab a random friend unit from your list and user because most people just gear for straight damage.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Specifically for Demon Wall, and also just this week in general, it's a bit more rough from her because next week she will have her exclusive gun available from completing all 5 floors of Ancient Ruins with the Mana storyline, and then I think you trade in the 5 gems from killing the bosses for it, but that gives her 50% HP off the bat before even like item world enhancements, so that helps a fair bit. And like with that, her physical effective HP is actually pretty reasonable, but obviously you can't use that on Demon Wall anyway because it's innate Earth element, so she's at a bit more of a disadvantage than usual. But also, if it's the Earth element magic AoE that was killing her, it's probably easier to just gear for Earth resistance instead. That's what I'd do.
Yeah, probably. But I was just so surprised because what I did then was I actually tried to do the exercise of, okay, so how high can I get her spirit up without losing too much damage? And so I didn't use the builder because the builder would probably take 3 days for this right now because like there's so many parameters I want to tweak. But the thing is, I got her to like 400. And okay, so I have a decent amount of STMRs. And I got her to 400, but with only 2,400 attack. I'm sure I can optimize that. I'm like certain I can do that because I've seen some nice builds.
Actually, a really kind of nice build for that is using the catastrophic set because it gives you Earth resist, defense, decent attack, and also a good chunk of spirit and HP.
Yeah, but see, I wanted to use the Esther STMR. Okay, that was the entire point of the run.
Will issues.
Yeah,
real life will issues.
No, but it was disappointing. Like it's not easy. I want to say that. Like, okay, I am an idiot. I am. So like probably is a better way of building her. There is, but it's not easy. Like it really isn't easy to get that magic EHP up.
It is more difficult. What she really wants is 2 Sabin STMRs because those give her HP and a ton of attack with Fist, and she wants her
yeah,
own
but
STMR.
HP wasn't enough. I had a Sabin STMR. I had like I think my second attempt was 14k HP, but she still like took so much damage to the face. And just as a comparison, I was so shocked by this. I was like, okay, so I just need to put in my Noctis because obviously I forgot something in this team. So I just put in my Noctis the way I normally gear him. I went in, Noctis takes 4k. And I'm like, what? And then of course I discovered the spirit thing. So it's like there are units that are much easier to gear. Let's just be frank about that.
I guess part of the problem is probably that there isn't a ton of gear that has like overlap between adding attack and adding spirit.
Yeah.
They quite have little overlap, those two stats.
Yeah, the key one for that would be the Adventure Materia, Chocobo Adventure, which is like a limited material, and Noctis SDMR for people who actually have it.
Yeah.
And especially Demon Wall is not really a great fight for her anyway, because let's say you get her specific gun, it's Earth Element, and that's the one that Demon Wall actually absorbs. So you can't use that really for Demon Wall either.
No, so it was a challenge, and I think that's something that we should just be aware of. That gearing for EHP for Spirit or EHP for Magic EHP is difficult, and we should just consider that.
I was actually bullied into pulling her. I was on Meet Me on Mars' stream, and they were telling me how much trash the Final Fantasy 9 banner is going to be, and I should just spend my Lapis now. And I actually did end up pulling, and I got her in 15k. So I did the first step up, and I literally got every single blue you could get on the first step up, and except for the guaranteed. And on the rainbow, I got a Vincent, which is pretty terrible. But then the first step of my second lap, I got an Edel on that first step. So I used the coins that you get to get her Prism. So 15k total for an Edel is, I feel like a good deal, even though it looked awful at the time.
Yeah, the 12k banner is a decent chance to chase it. And I think one way to chase it that's quite good is trying that one lap on the 12k, get enough coins for the Prism, and then if you've got tickets, that's a good time to use those, especially as she's a Soul Rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now actually gonna try to chase her STMR. I put some money down, but I'm not gonna do any more. But I am gonna do some more pulls once we get the story reset or the story revisit missions. Sorry. Let's see if I can pull that off, because that STMR is pretty juicy actually with the 55 attack. It's like EP in territory, and like also, I gear all my units for EP because my real life peen is tiny.
Yeah, it's also so far the only piece of equipment with stop resist on it, which is interesting and worrying for Arena.
Yeah, I love it. I want it, but let's see. I'm not gonna go all in for it. If I get it, I get it. All I need is one Edel more, and I have it.
Cotton was saying something interesting earlier, that the controversy on Reddit was using basically the same information for both opinions on her. What do you mean by that?
I've seen the arguments for both sides, and if the initial arguments for both were using Focula shit for them, for that. Like the ones that say her damage is high, just look at the overall DPS on turn 18, which is ridiculous. While the ones that complain about her taking time to ramp up or being fragile, look at her builds and her damage over turn as the turns increase in the fight.
Yeah, Muspel is actually trying to. One of the reasons I made sure they weren't on the podcast this week is because Muspel and Shadowwalk were both arguing for a 10-turn rotation as the calculation we should use, which really doesn't give the full picture, in my opinion, of her damage potential. But it's been kind of a typical rotation that we've used in the past in the wiki ratings. And for this one, I thought we should make an exception because it just didn't make sense otherwise.
The thing is, we've never used just a flat cut off, because that often will intersect the middle of a repeating rotation, which isn't very good. So usually we go for a natural repeat point that's around 10, but because of how she ramps, she doesn't have any sort of possible repeat point unless you take her asymptote, which is completely unrealistic. So it's a bit of a hard one to work out exactly, but I'm going for 15, advocating for that, because I think it's the best balance between recognizing her late fight potential and without overstating it too much.
Yeah, because if people are throwing around the number you said last week, I mean, she's pumping out 40 billion damage a turn, in the late teens, and it kind of oversells it a little bit as as far as what her damage potential is more early
Yeah, because
on.
then there's also the counter argument of like fights are never going to get that long that you're actually going to ramp all of her cooldowns into it anyway, which makes sense. But on the other hand, she also does the amount of damage that trials will that you'll never get to that turn anyway. So kind of point is moot.
Yeah.
But one
It's-
tip I want to give to everyone that's actually that have lucked out and gotten an Adele is to actually try to weave in as much of her finisher early on as possible. Do some intelligent team comps. Do something smart. Like I just discovered that Machina and dual wield Seaguard can both chain AMOE chains without any problems if Seaguard is passive provoke, which is actually an excellent comp to get those extra finishers in for Adele.
And Galuf can do the same as well because he's got several absolute mirror change as well.
Yeah. And you can also do so Machina with Neverending Hope as well, because Neverending Hope has an mirror of. Wait, is it mirror of equity?
Yeah, absolute
Yeah.
mirror of equity.
Absolute mirror of equity. Yeah. So there are a couple of options, and use them to your advantage when you're building the team, and you can actually get a lot of damage even early with Adele.
Yeah, it just goes back to what I said originally, I think, is that with the right team comp, with the right gear, she can really shine. And I know that right now she's not that great for me because I don't have some of the gear that I'd like to have on her. But, down the road, I think it's a good investment. But as I said in the beginning, the reason I pulled her is because I like her sprite and character. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, let me just agree on that.
Her design is great.
Like that. Okay, let's just talk about the LB. Okay, give me 5 seconds to talk about the LB. Because she walks up, she drops her cloak or the robe or whatever she has on her shoulders, and then just kicks some ass. Like, have you seen that animation?
Yeah, she pops
Yeah.
off a few shots. Then she's like, "All right, let me get up in there." Boom, 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 and then she comes down with this huge earth fist of death. It's pretty awesome.
She attacks with the power of God and anime.
Yes, absolutely. I have a question for Cotton though. Cotton, how many Adeles do you have now?
I will use a ticket later. Okay. Happy, you guys. Happy Hazard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still at 0 as well. I didn't pull for it, but I do have my 60k EP ticket from Mogging. So why don't I just pull that right now?
Yes, pull.
And we'll see how we
Shit,
go.
Go
Live
ahead.
stream polls. Let's do this.
Well, technically,
All
this
right.
is not going to be live, but
Okay, who do you think it is before he says?
okay. You know what? For Cotton's sake, I hope it's Adele.
I bet it's time
I'm just
for
going to close my eyes.
Ninth Dark Knight Cecil.
How many Kurosami do you have, Dream?
6.
It's gonna be your 7th.
Hey, stop cursing him. Jesus, you're evil.
Or it could be a Freya. You never can have too many Freyas.
It was a 7th copy of something, but it's regular Luneth.
Oh no.
Wait, that's not
Oh,
too
boy.
bad. Like 8 Luneth means another awesome chest piece. So
With
There's something worse.
1 attack and not 1 attack. 45 attack, but 1 defense and spirit. The resists on it are nice though. Yeah, I do use my current one quite a lot. But I don't know if I'd need a second one really. Well.
Too
And-
bad. Well, I mean that is the EX ticket, 5-star EX ticket thing. Like you always get shit rolls on those.
Pretty much. Oh well.
Okay, so I'm gonna
That's
follow
been
you.
our Let's Pull segment. Oh,
Oh, Bharos too.
Alright.
Let's do this.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't have an 5-star EX ticket, but I'm gonna do a 4-star ticket on Adele banner just to get another Adele to rub it in for Cotton, okay? Because this is gonna give me an Adele. I can feel it.
I did a 3-star ticket. Got a 3-star unit. Banner works as expected.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so it was a yellow crystal, but I know this is gonna crack into an Adele. Like I definitely feel it. Okay, it's not cracking into an Adele. Sorry, it was a 4-star.
All right.
It was
all right.
Almaz. I got a lot of him. I like getting
Yeah.
him though, because after the story event, I like the dude. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I put
keep
in-
one of him.
I've put in like 15 tickets and got a few copies of him because I think his TMR is pretty much the only source of non-STMR MP reduction. There might be one
Yeah.
other one
Yeah.
that's like 10%, and that'll be nice on Kryla sometimes.
Absolutely.
I've got the ultimate disappointing ticket, which is the 10% rainbow ticket. I'm going to use it on Adele.
boy.
You guys ready?
Ooh, here we go.
90% blue ticket.
Oh, it's a gold to start. That's a first.
Ooh. Maybe it'll
Ooh,
break.
big crack.
Kianos. It's Kianos.
Aw.
Oh boy.
That's okay.
At least can your heart overcome the hatred of that?
It's funny. I always use 10% tickets right away because I don't want to ever hype them up in my mind because they suck every single time. So I don't ever give them any value in my mind.
Technically, like their design just makes you hype them up because they're just slightly better 4-star ticket. Like actually, they're a slightly worse 4-star ticket because you're not gonna get a 4-star mostly.
Well, it depends what you're chasing, I guess.
Yeah.
If you only care about the banner rainbow.
A 4-star ticket, honestly. So last week on the podcast, at the end, we asked you guys to ask us questions on the Reddit post, and we would answer them on the podcast. So we did get 5 different questions that I hopefully will be able to answer all of these if we have time. So without further ado, we'll get into the first one. This one's from Dr. Fox. He says, how do you guys feel about the reroll banners? And I actually want to start with this because I did the attack reroll banner, and it had a bunch of different characters that I could have used, and there was only one unit that I really had no use for, which was I already have 8 Elesperus, and I really didn't want a 9th one. So guess which one I got?
Wait, like you can reroll. That's the whole point of the banner. Did you like get an Elesperus on every reroll?
No, I got other units, but I was like, oh, I think I can do better because I literally got no rainbows except the guaranteed every time. And I got like Kefka one time, which didn't excite me. I got Lunera. I've already got 2 of her STMR, so I didn't care about that. Like, there's just a bunch of stuff. And the last one, it came down, and it was a Lesperus number 9 and a random STMR Moogle for Ed Lesperus, which I will never use. So how do I feel about reroll banners? They suck. They suck.
Okay. But I'm happy you opened it like that because I want to pick up on that. Because I want to say only an idiot would pull on the attack reroll banner. But the other reroll banners, though, are actually really, really good, especially for new and non-super veteran players. Because you will always get a useful unit if you're going for chances are very high you're going to get a useful unit going into like the healer tank banner. Because you have so many rerolls. And if you're smart when you quit, like you quit when you're on top, you're going to get something good. I just use them to chase STMRs. So like that's how I got my second Ravenheart.
I actually agree with you, Bharos, because I mean, for me, it's not good because I literally have every single shield STMR from a tank and every single freaking staff STMR from a healer that there is. I finally got my last one with Aiden this week. But for new players, it's a really solid deal. Yeah, I would say for the tank and healer banner.
Or just, shoring up some holes you have in your roster.
Especially the tank banner then.
I would say their main use is probably that STMR chasing because you get sort of the best value when you've currently got 2 copies of the unit you pull, and then obviously the extra one and the 50% STMR will give you that STMR cleanly. Because I did all of them this round. I didn't do them the first time, but I decided to look at it because I think it's important before you do them to like do a bit of evaluation and like see how many good rolls there are versus how many bad ones for you. And I think all of mine ended decently, but not amazingly. Like I got an Elesperus STMR from the first one, and I have like so many good Katana materials. And then from the support one, I got a Summer Fulcra and Citra STMR, which is very nice, good stats and element resist. And then from the healer tank one, I finished off an Awakened Rain STMR, and also got a second Alolan Lab as well, I guess, on the side. But who cares about that?
So, Cotton, you were saying something about the tank banner.
I guess the tank banner would be good for newer players who are missing like healers or tanks because there are quite a few of the good healers and tanks available there. And especially if you can pull your first copy, you can just UOC the Prism, which gives you a 7-star tank or healer that's very useful.
There is one glaring issue with the tank resummon though, and that's that Paladin Cecil is not on it.
I know. I was so disappointed. I was actually hoping for a chance to pull him there, but it's a bit sad though. Like, what's the reasoning behind it? It's that like they just do a date cap, and he was after the date or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think. Well, I mean, these pulls were obviously like specifically chosen, but so he could have been in it. But I guess it is probably just because he is so new.
Yeah.
So our next question comes from Zim Zom Zam, and it's actually a 2-part one. The first part is, what would you like for Gumi to add to the game in like events, bosses, units, new gear, quests, things like that? And then the second part is, what would you like to delete from JP before it reaches global?
Oh, good one.
The second part, there's one really clear answer. It's their new banner system. It's bad. It's really bad. Please don't ever come to global.
It seems to change quite a lot.
Yeah, but can someone tell me about it? Because I haven't heard that much about it.
So right now in JP, there are no step-ups. All you can do are just 10+1 pulls. For each 10+1 pulls, you get basically 1 exchange coin. And you can use 1 exchange coin to exchange for the fast unit prism. Or you can spend 30 exchange coins to exchange the feature unit.
I think you can also do 10 for a random featured unit if there's a couple.
Oh, but
Yeah, but
well,
there's
like 1 coin is Prism.
Yes.
Oh,
I think that's a recent addition. The first few that had this ticket system didn't have that, and it was much worse. But then again, for a few banners, they also gave out the prisms for free, which was interesting. So it's gone up and down quite a lot.
I mean, it's obvious they're testing stuff, I guess, trying to
Yeah.
see what works
Yeah.
and what doesn't from the Festa
Speaking
fiasco.
of, in one of the latest banners, I think it was the ones with like their newest batch of SB units, so Bahamut, Dark Fina, Phoenix Jake, and Lakshmi Lid. They had this like panel system where each 10+1 you got one of 9 random items, and some was like there was like a prism for each unit, a random featured unit, a random STMR Moogle, and like a couple other things, and a couple of them were really bad, but when I looked at this, I was really not happy to see this because I was like, oh, it's gacha within your gacha, but it's not quite as bad as I first thought, because once you get a panel item, you can't get it again. It doesn't roll from the whole pool each time. It like exhausts it, similar to the box summons, I guess.
Okay.
I was just gonna say these are systems that tend to reward heavy investment and be bad for light investment on these banners, which I don't like so much.
Yeah, that does suck. But though, although the 10+1 Prism thing is okay, because like as a player, I'm as a player, I do spend money in the game, obviously, but I also am quite. I just pulled on every banner basically. If I have some tickets, if I have some lapis, I'm gonna go in. So the 10+1 thing is actually beneficial for me, because if I get the rainbow, if I get a random rainbow on banner like through dailies, if I have the 5k lapis, I can just go in and get myself a prism. That's pretty decent though.
Yeah, but my main thing against these banners is that it removes the guaranteed safety net unit. Because I remember spending a lot on the FF6, on the Final Fantasy 6 banners just to get my first Terra.
Oh,
And
I
we
remember
all
that.
remember poor Lemon, who had like
Yeah.
12 Pelom and Pyroms before getting his first Sisu.
Yeah, although those were on banner rainbows, just saying. So like he actually
Yes.
wasn't helped by the guaranteed on banner unit. He was not. No, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. They're absolutely removing the guarantee, which sucks. But can I say something about that I would like them to add? So I would
Yep.
like them to just add accuracy for all future bosses, period. Or cap evasion at 20%. And I'm not even kidding. Like I'm not trying to make a joke. I think it would be an improvement for the entire game if they cap evasion at 20%.
Okay, I actually have an opinion on this because I'm probably one of the biggest evasion haters that you guys know. But one thing I really hated evasion in the 6-star meta because it basically ignored sometimes 90 or 100% of the trial mechanics. And there were some fights that were almost impossible to do without evasion, like one of the 10-man trial bosses, Aldefera, was honestly almost impossible. Like the only way you could beat it with an actual provoke tank was to have someone else provoke and use your tank who was guarding, use their auto cover on the provoking unit. And that's the only way they could survive some of the later hits. But since then, I think
that's bad design, arguably.
I thought it was bad design at the time. I think they have done a pretty good job of mitigating the effectiveness of the provoke tank by adding fixed damage and dispels and doing, or not dispel, sorry, but doing other things. I still would rather not have it in the game or have it designed differently, but it does add some unique team comp things that are that wouldn't be available otherwise with this like passive provoke and evasion, Krylas or Dr. Aidens and things like that that allow you to do some interesting team building. So I will say give it credit for that, even though I don't like the mechanic itself.
I think for me, I'm all right with evade provoke. Being able to evade cover is stupid because, like, if you think about it just in conceptual terms, like if you evade provoke, you've got someone running around, drawing attention, and then like dodging single target hits. But with a cover, the idea is they are blocking attacks from hitting the team by shielding them, and you can't shield someone and then dodge the attack you're supposed to be blocking. If you do that, it hits the team.
No, I agree with Dream. It conceptually makes no sense to have
Yeah,
AoE
yeah,
cover
agreed.
evasion. But I actually have one thing I'd like them to delete from JP, which is the Esper units in general. I think they're super lazy, but I talked about that last week. Something I'd like them to add: more Final Fantasy Tactics units, please. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Actually, CG Ramza may be coming soon, so I'm pretty excited. And I'll hold my judgment until after he releases. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add on this one or like to delete?
Well, I guess again, revisiting a point from last week, I want more Chamber of Arms units and their story events specifically. That would be cool. And
Agreed.
just on the note of Esper units, I kind of like them, but the main thing I wish is that because in their limit animations and their like win animations, they have these really cool fusion sprites, but then just in their idle sprites, they're just standing next to each other and taking up more space than they deserve. So I just wish they were in those fusion sprites permanently.
Yeah.
So our next question is really interesting. It's from Flare EXE. It's what is the current floor for a damage dealer to be like relevant? I would say Dream, you probably have a good answer since you do a lot of the calculations for these things.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that the current one is maybe around that sort of 10 to 12 billion range, which is, for reference, roughly half of what our top end is doing. And I think maybe in general that can be a bit of a rule of thumb, excluding like huge spikes, is that within like half of the top end is probably usually going to be pretty good. And just having a bit of a count up, that's like still around 40 plus damage dealers currently. So there's definitely a lot that are still viable. And I think until recently that floor was probably actually lower as well. But just a couple recent things like Demon Wall are sort of bringing it up to that higher level.
I will say if you have a unit that has killers that are relevant to a trial, for example, Esther for Demon Wall, or like Furion or Assassin Shadow has really good human killers, sometimes that can make up the difference if they're just a tad bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, like Esther was viable for Demon Wall because all of her natural, like Earth Resist Stone Killers, Petrify Immunity, good physical effective HP, that all lined up and made her viable for that. But I would say that most other damage dealers of a similar level to her probably would not have been viable for Demon Wall.
Yeah.
That is true.
It brings up a good point that I was thinking about, which is how often does the average player actually have to pull for a damage dealer on a yearly basis? And I did some calculation. If you assume that you get a damage dealer, and let's say they're the top one at that time, and then a year later they get enhancements, which bring them, at least on global, we've gotten enhancements that mostly bring them up close to, if not to the meta at the time, or at least into viability. So that unit is lasting you a pretty good chunk of time. If you roll 3 units a year like that, right? If you pull every 4 months, that'll last you 2 years basically of decent enough damage dealers, I would say.
And you obviously will get quite a lot of off-banner ones as well. Like I've got Yigo and stuff currently waiting for enhancements that I never pulled for them, but you can still get their enhancements later. And so yeah, I think you don't really have to pull for a new damage dealer very often at all. And I mean, I guess I'm currently testament to that. I don't remember the last one like I fully pulled on. I guess I went hard for Barts, but because I was going for Lena, I wasn't actually targeting Barts and only got one of them. So it may have even been Esther technically that I went all in for, and I'm still going good. Like Tifa has just given me another period of time that I don't have to pull for one because of how good she is.
Mm.
I'm going to say in reality, you basically never have to pull for a damage dealer because you're going to end up with something. Although, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. I think if you pull once a year, you're actually going to be good with damage because that's how this game works. Trials are never that difficult that you actually need Adele or AK Rain to beat the trial. I mean, of course, Dream, you being the proof since you did it with Esther.
I'm in the same boat too. The last damage dealer I pulled Lapis for before Adele was, I honestly can't even remember. It wasn't even Esther. It was before Esther. Last unit I actually pulled on a with Lapis on a step up with Charlotte, and I've got basically all the top tier stuff that I could want. Like, I don't really have to pull for a damage dealer at all, and I don't even spend money on the game. I'm free to play, by the way. But it's just the way it goes. Like, you get so many off banners now that you're bound to end up with something good after a few months.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it depends like how established you are in your unit collection and your luck and stuff. But yeah, and like pulling for a new damage dealer is still fun and nice. But yeah, it's definitely very rarely necessary.
I mean, it's a direct effect, right? Like, you pull a new damage dealer, you can run them through wall, you can run them on the trials, you see a clear drop in the turns, right? It's much harder to do the same with a tank or a healer.
Yeah.
Although that kind of only applies kind of to physical damage dealers, physical and hybrids. Because with mages, the damage disparity between the top ones and the older ones is really, really huge.
I suppose
That's actually
that's
a good
true.
point.
Yeah, because there's like 30 physical dealers that are currently in that sort of viable range, and only about 10 mages.
Less if you consider non-limited ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them are limited as well, like Christine and stuff. Most of the top mages currently aren't, though.
So the next question we got was from Wolf Yoga, and he says, should I be excited about the Final Fantasy VII remake units coming up? And yeah, I mean, if you guys want to answer this one, I've already talked about this.
Okay. I think it'll somewhat depend on when they're released. Like, if they're released at about the same time as they were sort of relative to the JP schedule, then I think Advent Children Tifa is quite mediocre. From what I've seen, I haven't really looked into her a lot, but I think the main talking point is obviously Cloud, and at his base form, he is decent, but he's one of those units that has a lot of potential with external support to scale high, because obviously you can fill his limit burst more frequently, you can give him stronger Imperials, you can save him turns by imbuing, you can give him a stronger attack buff, I think. I don't remember his innate one actually. And then the main one is provide support chains to use his limit burst as a finisher instead of a chainer, because it's only 5 hits. So it'll make like a 9 chain if you use it with a dupe and be alright, but it's much better used as a finisher. And yeah, he can scale very high with a ton of external support, but without it, he's kind of mediocre.
So I'm just going to jump in and say I actually think Wolf Yoga meant if we're going to get a collaboration in April because FF7 Remake is releasing. So I don't think he was talking about the AC units. Although that was actually an excellent talk about the AC units, because I had no idea about them.
One of the theories is that our sort of event for that Final Fantasy VII release will be getting that Advent Children banner early. So that's sort of why I brought that up. But it is also possible that we will have a different one that's, say, simultaneous release with JP.
And I'm just going to say, as usual, like, if you like Final Fantasy VII, then yeah, of course you should be excited, right? It's going to be a great banner regardless.
I honestly think that's the answer to all of these questions. Like, pull for what you like, because you're going to get other stuff that's going to keep you in the game. But pull for what you like, because that's the nostalgia that brought you here, probably, or that's what keeps you going. It's more important than the top damage dealer, honestly.
Yeah, unless what you like is Magitech Warrior Terra. I'm so sad about that still.
No. Let's not bring that up anymore, okay?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's not talk about that anymore.
So our final question is from Two Skis, and he asks, wouldn't casuals also prefer a ranking that's more aimed towards veterans? And so I think the juxtaposition here is the wiki ratings, according to Muspel's parameters, are aimed towards what's called casuals rather than veterans. And casuals are people that usually have some sort of hole in their roster, so they can't always have the most optimal team building to make the most out of a unit. But I would say Dream, please edit this out. I would say
Dream would edit this out?
No, sorry. I meant someone else. I looked at Dream because his mic was flashing.
Yeah. Well, I do have something to say about this. So.
Okay. I'll let you talk in just a second.
Okay, sounds good.
I was going to say that. Okay, let's say that. Hold on. Actually, I think Shadow Walker and the wiki tier list does a pretty good job of addressing that, because they kind of assume more of an optimal play style, optimal team, optimal gear to kind of see what the actual potential is of a unit in the right circumstances.
And adding on to what the Hazard has been saying, there are other damage calculation sheets that use different assumptions. Like Furculus, more of the ones the Furculus sheet assumes that the unit has some form of external support, while Shadow Walker does a separate sheet that uses fully wheel Estima views.
Yeah, so I just want to jump in here because obviously the parameters, like you have to choose a set of parameters, right? And the parameters that are geared towards casuals, I think, are very relevant because you can't so the actual question in the thread was, what do you think is better? Like, because won't casuals also be benefited more by rankings for non-casuals? And that's where I actually disagree, because if you tell a casual that Noctis is the best unit in the game, wait, that's actually a bad example because he actually is. But if you tell a casual Sid, but if you tell a casual this Sid is a top damage dealer, right? And then a casual goes and takes Sid for a spin, and it absolutely blows donkey ass for them. It's not because they can't get it to work. Like, they don't have an Imperiler, they don't have an Imbuer, they don't have a Chainer. So of course that's going to be a bad ranking. Of course, the downside of using the assumptions we use is that these units are going to slip through the cracks. Noctis still is not top rated in the wiki ratings ranking, which is really weird.
Okay, did you guys see though? Did you see in the daily help thread on Reddit? There was someone who had used a move with Sid, the one that like makes him disappear for like 20 turns unless you use the cooldown before. And he couldn't understand where he'd gone.
Oh dear.
It's like, where's my, like, did he get snorted? What happened?
It's so funny.
He's just gone to get cigarettes.
Oh, come back, Dad.
But no, I think in general, with what Bharos is saying, is how like the units that people feel like often come to us as being underrated by wiki ratings, like a lot of the finishers and stuff. The point is they're better with external support, and the people who come to us with the disagreements are the ones that can have obviously been able to analyze that unit for themselves and how good they are with that external support and don't need the ratings. Whereas, so a casual doesn't know what those external support that unit needs to shine is, and it's hard to convey that with just like a single rating. So it's better to have it more accurate for people who are just going to look at it at a glance and not go fully into depth of all the units and stuff, and know exactly how things fit together for like a super optimal team comp, and are better, they're more suited by ratings that just look at their sort of general value as an individual without too much of that team comp that synergizes really well with them and supports them.
Actually, and I think that the takeaway here is make sure you know what the ratings are geared towards before you look at them and start to rant, because they may not be for you specifically. And as always, everyone can contribute to the wiki ratings. Those of us here do, but none of us were like, none of us had to do like some blood pact to get in. Like, it's just whoever wants to argue with Muspel for 10 hours is welcome to do so.
I mean, that is one of the rites of initiation, isn't it? Anyone who wants to be a wiki rater has to argue with Muspel for 10 hours first before they're allowed to join.
Also, wait. You didn't have to do a special initiation?
I mean, my initiation was like recalcing all the relevant damage dealers on the sheet and making a better template.
So you didn't have to meet like Muspel behind a 7-Eleven?
No, I went the alternate route.
There are many paths to the dark side, some consider to be unnatural.
So one thing I just want to add here is that in 90% of the cases, actually most of the rankings that we have in FFBE today are going to be painting a very similar picture. But depending on like what type of player you are, some of the units might fall through the cracks in certain rankings. So just keep that in mind. But in general, they actually work really well, all of them.
Yeah, like there's none that you're going to see that will have Cecil as a bottom tier tank and Wilhelm at the top. So in general, like all of us have a decent idea of what we're talking about.
Dream, have
Debatable.
you seen Wilhelm's shield? His sprite? He's definitely better than Cecil, man. What are you thinking?
We could have sprite rankings.
I've been thinking of starting that myself, to be honest.
Yeah,
Do
like Edel would top it.
Do it.
Final Fantasy Tactics would top it.
Yeah, if Hazard starts a ranking.
And now the question is, what parameters do you use? Do you just use their idle, like their base sprite, or do you consider all their animations? Do you use their base rarity or their max rarity? See, there's a lot of parameters you need to consider. And like
Yeah, you're
casual,
right.
casuals might prefer the one that uses their base sprite, and veterans might prefer the one that uses their 7 sprite. And really, you just
Yeah, like
You give this a lot of thought.
and I mean, like you're gonna have a damage ranking that goes up with the amount of frames in the animation. So like 10 frames is about the like 21.0, while 12 frames is 22.0, etc.
And then what about the Esper units? Like, what about when it comes to the Esper units? Like, are you going to use the horrible base sprites, or are you going to use the nice fusion sprites?
their rating is just the number of pixels in their sprite. So the Esper units are all top tier, as is White Knight Noel.
So I want to give you guys the Hazard 3 rules for pulling units. And it's the first one is, does it have a cool sprite? Yes. All right. Does it have a cool sprite? Second, can you use it for everything without changing gear? And number 3 is, how many autocasts does it have before you can use him?
Oof.
You forgot the 4th rule, Hazard. Is it Final Fantasy Tactics?
To be honest, if a Final Fantasy Tactics unit had a terrible sprite and had like 10 autocasts and was like super gear dependent, I probably wouldn't pull for him.
Stop lying.
I might just revert to rule 1. What's funny is I don't like Orlando, actually, even though he's got a cool sprite, because he's just so overpowered in Final Fantasy Tactics that he makes the game a lot more boring. So I always benched him and used Meliadoul and Agrias and in Beowulf and stuff.
So he's too good.
Note. He is literally too good for that game. Yes.
And that's going to be obviously very reflected when JP gets the Final Fantasy Tactics series boss battle and Orlando does 10 times the amount of damage as anyone else.
He should get a special bonus like 1,000 to all buffs.
He just gets 6 series boss skills.
And he gains a skill called face roll. You click it once and you win. That's basically how I felt in Tactics.
Being accurate to source material.
Exactly. So our last segment today is we're going to talk about the enhancements for Tifa and Jekt, and we're also going to talk about the latents for Olive. And I would say there were some hits and some misses here. Let's start with a miss, which was Jekt. And I know, Dream, you were especially disappointed about this one.
Yeah, it's really sad because like everything was looking good, that they had fixed him and made him a nice, clean 5-turn rotation where he would, because like he got his multicast enhanced so he could buff up and imbue on the same turn, and then his triple cast and attack buff duration was extended for that 5-turn duration so he could have 4 great chaining turns, and then they made the mod boost 1 turn too short and made his last turn suck. And that's pretty much Jekt.
That's so unfortunate. So unfortunate, actually. I was hoping he was going to get a better treatment.
Dumb design. And like, it's not like he would have been overpowered. He still would have been slightly weaker than Tifa is if he'd gotten that 4th turn.
Although let's be honest, like he's still strong though. Let's not forget about that, because
he is strong enough.
Yeah, he's around the level of like Radiant Lightning, Arden, Ace King Laswell.
Yeah, so if you got him, you should be like, if you have Jekt and he's now your strongest damage, you should be happy you got a good unit. So
yeah, that's certainly not bad.
But you're not just as aesthetic as with Tifa.
Yeah, you're not as ecstatic as with Tifa, because Tifa got an excellent treatment. I loved enhancing her. Did you see, like, have you seen how much health she has? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, her passives are really nice.
She sits at 10k health completely without gear or materia.
Yeah, like naked. She's 10k health naked. It's stupid. I love it.
Let's not talk about Tifa naked too much.
Listen, Dream, you need to get your excitement down, all right? And your mind out of the gutter.
I mean, you said it, not me.
It's interesting though. It's some head scratching design for Jekt on that rotation, but Tifa also did have one thing. It wasn't head scratching, but I just wish they would have changed, which is Dolphin Blow is her imbue and imperil move for water. I really wish they would have made it divine ruination frames like everything else.
Yeah, that would have been very nice.
Mm.
Just have her consistently chaining, and because like it got a decent mod boost, it's not just a throwaway turn, except for the fact that it's one hit, which makes it a throwaway turn for damage, and it's solely for imbue and imperil. But it does mean she has some external scaling available by like providing those that imbue and imperil externally, especially if you have Luna Freya or Locke to still get that 120% imperil on water.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I wish I had Lock, but I think the play here is to give her splash knuckles. So she has water.
If you're doing it with Luna Freya, especially because her imbue drops a turn, but the imperil doesn't.
Because if you can drop that imbue and imperil turn and fit it in with Luna Freya or Locke or someone else who's kind of doing it anyway, her damage is really, really good.
Yeah,
and her
it goes up
and
to
her
basically the same level as the Chinese New Year duo.
And she has a hazard rotation as well then.
she has the best rotation. It's basically just Final Heaven, or what's the other one? There's another Heaven.
Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, it's basically do one until the air cooldown's up and continue.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite rotation.
Technically, you can she does benefit a lot if you can just gear her with another element. So fists, unfortunately, have a limited selection of elements to them. But you can always use an equip materia. Don't forget that. You can use an equip materia. There is the Jiraiya TMR as well that lets her equip katanas.
Yeah. Okay, Cotton just sighed a little bit, but I do want to say Tifa's base attack percentage is 220% without her TMR. It's 280% with her TMR. So she's an especially good unit for using an equip X weapon kind of thing because she caps attack so fast.
It is just obscene how good her innate passives are, how much health and EHP she has, while still capping attack ridiculously easy. And especially since you can use Fizz. Yeah, and that too. And especially since you can use Fizz, like she can use something like Carton's TMR to even cap attack faster. Like I'm sure some builds have she caps attack with 4 material slots empty. I won't be surprised if she can do that.
Yeah, Sab and STMR, easy.
It's just obscene.
Is how she has low base attack because she's got that mixed spread and mixed pot spread. So her base attack is quite low, but it does mean her defensive bases are a bit higher, which contributes to her natural bulk. So that's helpful too, in a way. And then obviously her final damage is still fine.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I think she is one of the best units to have right now, hands down. Super easy to gear, easy to run. If you do some equip material, you have a ton of options. You can run Machina as the Imperiler for 3 elements. Jesus, you can do so many things, and she has so much health.
Yeah, they really hit a home run with her, I think.
Yeah, I would say she's probably top 5 chainers overall currently.
Oh, easily. And here I am just being salty because mine is stuck at 6-star.
Oof. Yeah, you can have one of my 9 excess Tifas if you want.
I'm at the mid ground, so I've got 3. So I've got 3 times Cotton, and Bharos has got 3 times me.
Oh, there we go.
Also, the other unit that got latents this week was Olive, and at first glance, she seems like she's a pretty solid damage dealer. But there's one fatal flaw that Gumi decided not to change. You guys remember her True Shot uses a really long animation, and which means it's almost impossible to cap it in any normal chain. So she did get W cast, but unfortunately, it just makes it really, really hard for you to cap both hits inside of a chain. And so her damage is actually not as good as what it would appear to be.
Yeah, there's only a few specific chains that can actually fit both hits reasonably, and I don't remember what they are.
Well, Olive does have an Immolation Blast rotation, which does, I think, almost as much damage or even more than her True Shot one. But the main caveat is that it kills her. So it's not, you can't very use it on some fights.
You include Immolation Blast in the True Shot rotation to make the Immolation Blast rotation, but I think when you're still W casting, and I think basically all of her skills, not just True Shot, have this problem with their attack animation and delay. So I think basically regardless of what actual moves you use, you've got that huge gap between the 2 hits.
Overall, I was kind of disappointed because Olive was our first global exclusive unit. I mean, the real global exclusive unit. I think we had Elsa, but she's from another game. I was just kind of disappointed that her latents seemed to like work, but they didn't change those frames. So Gumi Spy, if you're hearing this, please, for the love, just change the frames to be idle like every other unit, because it's killing her.
Might as well ask a Gumi Spy about Jack.
Yeah, just put in our requests.
That'd be so great. I also wanted to mention real quick. So the Esper Asura 2-star came out this week.
Oh yeah, that's our sort of quote unquote trial.
Yeah, it's really very similar to the first one, but it's a kind of a fun fight. I really enjoy that fight. It has a lot of different elements that are kind of fun, especially for a tank. I actually beat it with Madam Edel in 9 turns. So her damage was pretty good, because I think I beat it with Tifa in, I want to say 13 or 14, but I think someone died or something, I don't know. But her damage was actually pretty good, and she was reasonably tanky, and her double guts does help that a bit for sure.
Yeah, I think I did, like, I guess Asura is not a bad one for Edel, because she has those 4 turns of 95% mitigation at the start of the fight, so that gives you a bit of time to freely ramp, except on the turn that you can't hit her, and then like be starting off from a pretty high level. But yeah, I used Tifa for it, and I think I took 11 turns, because I was doing just under 25% per real chaining turn, and then had like the 4 turns at the start, 1 turn of Dolphin Blow, and then a couple where I was like got to 22% and then had to do a full turn just for like 3% to hit the threshold, and then after the threshold knocked her to 1%, and I think that 1% turn was the only actually threatening one in the fight for me, because Kryla ate an instant death, and then there was a fair bit of damage output onto the rest of the team, but everyone else survived. And for my clear, I thought it was quite appropriate that the goddess of the 6 realms, Asura, was defeated by 7th Heaven.
That's perfect.
It was very poetic.
That last little phase can get kind of hairy if you're not prepared for it, for sure.
Yeah, you definitely want to get through it within a turn or two.
Adele went from, I think I hit the 20%, what was it, 20% cap, and it was right before the 9th turn, so I was able to use that cooldown to kind of finish her off on turn 9, which was really nice. But I think Charlotte ate a death because I forgot that she had needed death resist. No biggie.
It's unresistible anyway,
Oh,
I think.
Then no worries.
Yeah, it's unresistible.
I think it's with Dispel as well, so you can't re-race through it either.
You know who else is
One way to do
unresistible?
it-
Adele.
Yep.
And Naked
I was going to
Tifa.
say,
NSFW.
is he going to say Adele or Asura? Because I don't know, those 6 arms, 3 faces, what's not to love?
The big swords that chop you up.
Even better.
If you really like getting nagged by your wife, this Asura is for you. She's got 3 times the nagging and all the finger pointing.
Anyway, Cotton, have you cleared Asura yet? How'd you do it?
I went the boring traditional road and used Aurora Freya. But I think it's especially ironic since I used the original unenhanced Aurora Freya for 1-star Asura, so it's nice to just bring her back and beat her up again.
Asura saw you
Yeah.
come and was like, oh, her again? Good grief.
I was sort of sad that just pretty recently, actually, I overwrote my saved in that I used for Asura 1-star, because it would have been cool to just load that, maybe improve it a bit, and then see how it fared against 2-star. But I wasn't able to do that, sadly, because I think I actually used Crimson to kill her the first time.
Wow.
It was about that
That is all.
era.
Crimson, never even heard of him. Who's that?
He only existed for about a month.
Short-lived. Hey, he had a longer shelf life than Axstar, though.
0.
That was the funniest thing ever.
Oh boy, that's one word for it.
You just never know what's going to come down the pipe for global. So never rely on JP data too hard, because it could all change in an instant, and you could be destroyed by your own clone.
And I mean, like one time I went through basically the update schedule and put all the units in order, because it was for making the global units list on the wiki a nice table like the JP one. And even just looking at the very first days of the release schedule, GL changed the order of so many things, even way back then. It's really like more than you remember.
Speaking of Elifime enhancements, when, right?
I don't think they're as overdue as people are making them out to be. I mean, like obviously there's this sort of like, in fact, basically October to January has like 3 out of 4 months reserved for enhancements being of the old seasonal units. So obviously it's going to get behind a bit. And then Elephant was basically expected in the same sort of batch as Jekt and Tifa, I think. So she's maybe like 1 month overdue, and
She does,
quite possibly will be March.
hasn't gotten the Ramza treatment yet on enhancements. That was a long, long wait.
Yeah, that hasn't really happened for a while, at least like not as a GL compared to JP. Some JP enhancements are incredibly late though. Namely Auron, who Jekt has now been enhanced in Global, and Auron has not yet been enhanced in JP.
Bailiff and Ultimate just got their enhancements in JP, and it's basically they'd be fine if they were released in Global today, but in JP they're a little bit
were a bit disappointing.
Oh, well, something to look forward to. More disappointment to look forward to. But
Is
I
there
was
anything
actually
new?
I was actually really impressed with the Tifa enhancements. If you guys want to, and anyone who's listening, can please ping customer support and tell them there's a bunch of bugs with Jekt and Olive enhancements that need to be fixed immediately. We'd really appreciate it. We want to thank you guys again for your questions. Keep them coming. We might answer them on future podcasts. Keep the good fight going over whether Edel is underrated or overrated. Enjoy all the enhancements, and we'll see you guys next week. Talk to you later.
See you next week.
All right.
And get good, Nexus.
Maybe don't include that part.